balsam fir, I think it is, or something.
Right. Or you.
Yeah.
I do.
Or me.
Sorry. They're sometimes not discriminatory enough to make the retro noise. It's my Norwegian sweater.
From 1990.
Okay. Is it? Is that what it says? I didn't even realize that. Tom and Cindy have some relatives from Norway, and they bought this, and then Tom and Cindy moved to Arizona, so they had no need for a full wool sweater. Arizona is pretty. I'll take it. I didn't realize it was dated. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's the day. Please don't become a great.
Carol?
What day did you sign up? 5 years at Michigan.
Thursday.
I have become a Cats fan.
What was the date? Thursday.
You're fine. I don't care about it.
That's funny. 'Cause I was reading it today, and I was like,
We're all sitting in our game.
oh, there it is, never mind, okay.
Jeez. Is there 2 games, 3 games on there? My boss is going on, my boss is wonderful. And she's, oh yeah, no.
No, how are you?
6 teams left, 2.5, 5 weeks. So that's fair. That's that.
What'd you do?
I'm just there going,
What are you talking about?
and then
Yeah.
pulls up every day.
I don't.
Wait for my this one. Okay, that's what I'm eating.
Yeah.
Same way.
My wife says, hey, we're doing this one. Hey, when is it?
Yeah. When is the Super Bowl? Me too. We do.
Absolutely are.
So,
Well, I start up there. I started there March 1st. So I've been here
I'm anxious to know
here
that.
from like mid. Got a lot today, so. Sorry, I just took a big vacation. Where I kind of got bored right off.
no,
Yeah, it's cold out there.
My husband's like, I'm going to. Yeah.
We'll do it with Jan.
Just let me know when you see
Our pretty good police department and our department up here. Load up the truck.
I'd be glad to help load, just
Reloading.
garbage.
Oh.
Yeah, whatever, that last pile of stuff needs to be removed for some.
Yeah, I mean, he's laying, she's pressing the fire department.
Yeah, if you could just bring a truck over.
She did his drawings. No, let me know when you get help out. I mean, I had guys over helping me move Lisa's office last week.
Yeah.
No one's told me about.
I know, and I don't want to send you over twice, I want to make sure we get rid of everything we have to get rid of, so that we don't have to. So,
You know, somebody's like, yeah.
Yes.
The paper.
there's not a lot of, well, there are a lot of like catalogs and stuff, and things that have been found. There are laptops and recycle that stuff. Of ones like lined up, then we do have a good stack.
Yeah.
It is so cold.
So just wanna just have big.
No.
It's like freeze the hairs in your nose after taking
Chiefs
like
can
5
do.
breaths.
That's why I got the mustache to cover up the. Yeah.
There's progress with us. I don't know if it's-
I always figure out what the reporters freeze.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're just gonna take it down, 'cause we want to.
You know, there is a way that where you can get that.
Yes.
It's under your nose wax. It's really painful. Okay. Really, so.
Yeah, I can take that conversation quite a way. City Commissioner. I am over here. Okay, you ready now?
Would you take this?
This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is called to order. May we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Bennett,
Present.
Commissioner Hoagland, here, Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Present.
Commissioner Sandberg.
Present.
Motion passes.
Okay, let's.
Okay, let's start the new year off. All right, we'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just want to inform the commission that there is one adjustment to the agenda. Action item B is tabled. Is there a motion on consent items, or is there any consent item that anyone would like to pull?
There was. Oh, approving the minutes, there's just a mistake. In the minutes on page 8.
So you'd like to pull that one?
Well, it just needs to be corrected, so we can vote for the correction as well, I guess.
Okay, make a motion with the correction.
And make a motion to approve consent items A, B, C, and correct the minutes from the meeting on the 20th on the vote for, it's action item 11B.
Action item 11, 11B. Okay. And
On the vote of all in favor, it was action item 2.
okay, 3-2. Okay.
That's all, just-
All right. Is there a second on that motion?
I second.
A, B,
B.
or B, sorry, 3-2 votes.
Yeah, it's on page 9.
Oh,
Page
On
9,
the 20.
action item 11. 11 action items. Discussion B. The vote is actually 3-2.
do we have a second?
Yes.
So, Commissioner Friedman? So motion by Commissioner Hoagland, second by Commissioner Friedman. Roll call?
Chairperson Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoagland? Yes. Commissioner Freeman?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg?
Motion passes. There are no proclamations, no scheduled public comment, no public hearings, no ordinances. There are 2 resolutions. The first resolution is resolution number 4715, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign the notice of award and agreement with Big Bear Contracting for construction and equipment necessary for the Livingston Dispatch Center remodel. Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is to finally bring to the beginning, I guess, our actual construction of the new dispatch center and police department. We went through a competitive bid process, which led to Big Bear Contracting being the lowest qualified bidder at $132,000 for the project in total. This will be split with the county. There's an approximate 65,000 and 59,000 split with the county. We do have agreement with the county for their $59,000 portion. We're just waiting on finalized agreements with the county for that portion. But this will get us underway. Big Bear has a 120-day contractual obligation to complete construction, which will resolve most of, if not all of the issues that currently exist within the dispatch center, which have drawn quite a bit of attention in the last few months. So the administration's recommendation is to move forward with this contract with Big Bear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment? Any public comment on the resolution number 4715? Is there any commission discussion? Commissioner Vogel?
I only have to say that I'm excited for everyone involved, that this is finally moving forward. And just refresh us, Lisa, in case anyone's listening, where you're at now.
Where we're at with construction on this?
You know, where you're at to find you as city.
Oh, yes, okay, because of this construction, this will take up almost all of what is the city office's space now, so my office is now back over at the Civic Center, so that the city manager office can be used as a staging area for all of the files and stuff that has to be rehomed back into the space when it's done.
Lisa's still in her spot. Courtney, you're
Floating.
I'm floating, but I'm primarily out of my private office at 519 West Park Street. If you need to find me, I can still get email at the regular city email address. You're welcome to email me at either that or my private email address, and I need a phone number. And the phone system is set up to give that information to people to call.
And I want to say that I'm very happy that this episode has ignited our new year that's moving forward. This is going to be great. I hope everyone who is going to benefit from it, police dispatch and the administration will enjoy having fresh, new, brand new stations. So thank you very much for moving it forward and keeping the ball rolling. Is there any other commission discussion at all? No. Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hooper. Yes. Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz.
4.
Commissioner Sandberg.
We didn't have a motion.
Oh, yeah, that's right, no, besides that.
Is there a motion from the commission on resolution 4715?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 4715.
Second.
So motion by Commissioner Vogler, second by Commissioner Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hooper. Yes. Commissioner Freeman, Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Sandberg.
4.
Motion finally passes. That was your last hiccup. Getting that approved.
We're trying something new.
Yeah. Trying to just reverse the order. All right. So our second resolution is resolution number 4716, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, approving the funding offer from USDA for funds to be used in the City of Livingston Water Reclamation Facility upgrade. Ms. Lowy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To say that we are very excited about this funding offer is quite an understatement. We have been working through the financing package on the wastewater reclamation facility for quite some time with regards to the overall financing of this project. USDA through the Rural Development Programs has come through with a loan in the amount of $5 million carried out over 40 years at 1 3/8 interest, which is significantly lower than anything that we were going to get through either SRF or other funds, or even through USDA had we signed the letters of intent after January 1st. So USDA went out of their way to make sure that we could lock in at this lower rate, the 1 3/8. And as part of that package, also have given us a grant, which is more than half of the grant funds available for the state of Montana, in the amount of $1,715,000 towards this project. They are absolutely committed and stand by this project, and have had extraordinarily complimentary comments about our engineering firm. The loan officers there are actually like, hey, can we work with this firm again on other stuff? Because they just have everything together, and it's so good to work with this group. So we are very proud of this, very proud of all of the efforts of Jesse, Shannon, our team at AE2S, certainly Scott and Brian, in assisting in pulling all of this together in such a rapid turnaround with the USDA. So this resolution is a piece that they need to go ahead and fully obligate the funds to us. And there'll obviously be more documents coming down the way in the next 30 to 45 days to finalize everything. But this is the initial step to secure this financing. So great job to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment on resolution 4716? Is there any commission discussion? Commissioner Sandra?
Thanks for all the information that you provided to me earlier. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's great that 40 years over 1.38. So all good news. The only, I think, just in my mind, trying to understand the scope of the project. I think when it was first presented to the commission, when I first got on, there was a discussion of $14 to $16 million. And I see now with the addition of the funding opportunities through this grant here that we're at 17 million. And so, and I know that Lisa and I discussed this before the meeting. I was just trying to understand a little bit more on the funding because I couldn't remember. So some of the questions that just came to my mind is having, has the budget, since we did provide them with a budget, did the budget change from what we initially looked at to get to that 17 million? And I know you were going to look into that, and it was late in the day, so I'm not sure that that was provided. But I guess my overall question is the funds. My concern is that we've presented a budget for 17.1, and to them, and in the, and I'm still hoping that we can be down where we thought we were going to be,
And we expect to be.
So the concern I have then is with on page 2 of, let's see, sorry, page 1 of the document from USDA stating that any changes in the project cost, source of funds, and scope, we would have to submit that to them. And so I'm wondering if we're going to try and maintain that project of what we established earlier, are we jeopardizing these funds because we put a budget in there of 1.7? And if we can, or 17 million, if we can, if, you know, we're going to try and keep it at 14.5, we're going to have to notify them of, hey, the bids are coming in, so now it's only 14 million. Will they reduce the loan and the grant they provided to us then?
They may reduce the grant portion. The grant funds are used last in this model. But until we have all of the bids in formally, and they're a very active part of that entire process, we will not know definitively what the final number is in that budget. All of the numbers in here are the engineer's best estimates, and they're going to be close. But until we have those actual bids in, there's no way to determine what the actual to the penny cost is going to be. And USDA is aware of that. There are contingencies built into this. There's also an additional $1 million loan reserve that USDA requires that's built into that 17.1.
Okay, so there's $1 million loan reserve.
And that's detailed in the document.
Okay. And what are loan reserves? I'm not familiar with the term.
It's, I'll have Jesse step up. She can probably explain it in better terms.
It's basically a way to that the funding agencies have some security that debt service will be made. So this is money that is put aside in a restricted account that will be kept on the books for the life of the loans. And SRF is usually the highest annual debt service. I believe SRF is the average debt service, or 1/2 the annual debt service. So each funding agency has its own
requirement, but, yeah, these are basically funds that are set aside should, a mass exodus happen from city of Livingston and the revenues should no longer support it, then at least we have the debt service for 1 full year. That's basically what a loan reserve is.
So do we have, would we be using the grant money then to set that aside? Because we don't really have $1 million cash to hold there, or is it just written as a liability?
It's basically restricted assets, and so what we would do is we would, the plan is to use the loan funds from both SRF and RD to establish those reserve funds, and that's pretty typical of what SRF, and I never worked with USDA before, but SRF, this is pretty typical of what they require as well.
So we're gonna be paying interest on money we have no plans of spending.
Yeah, you know, we could fund some of that with some funds we have set aside. We've basically just set that over there as to appease the funding agencies, I guess. That makes them feel more comfortable.
I'm just thinking if we take $1 million from the loan, we're gonna be paying interest on that for 40 years, which is a big chunk of change that they're gonna now get interest for 40 years plus their $1 million back.
And we will continue to earn interest on that as well. Having such a low loan rate for RD, it doesn't concern me as much. SRF is 2.5%, so we probably won't make up all of that, but yeah. And yeah, we will be paying interest on that.
Commissioner Sandberg, do you know if I have a follow-up question along that?
No, go ahead. Can I still come back though when you're done?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, if we have that $1 million in reserve, what do you estimate is a yearly cost for that to the city? And where does that come out of our, I'm assuming it's gonna come out of the sewer fund.
Yes, it will come out of the sewer fund. The yearly cost will essentially be the interest cost. So, and I did not calculate that, I apologize. And I don't like to do math off the cuff, but you know, it would be 505,000 at 1.375 and 545,000 at 2.5. That would be your interest cost annually on that, less any sort of interest earnings. I think our interest earnings are averaging, we still have some long-term CDs, so we're averaging probably about 0.8% interest.
Oh, we're making a killing.
Oh, we are.
So was it, I'm sorry, Jesse, 500 at
3.75%
1.375.
and 545,000 at 2.5. I don't have a calculator in front of me.
Are you,
I was gonna pull up an amortization. There you go.
oh, you're gonna cheat on that one.
Well, I can't do that.
7,000 for one.
And then also by interest earnings that may accrue for that. Yeah.
25,000. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I apologize, I did not have that.
Okay.
Will they accept anything else as collateral, like a building or a piece
Well,
of
they,
land?
it's, we do have, collateral as far as, revenues, like they have a certain interest off the revenues from the system. This is just an additional, and I would say specifically with USDA, they're probably gonna be pretty set just because it's federal rules. And so I would imagine that they're probably not gonna be able to move that around too much. And I don't know about SRF. I know they probably have some pretty strict guidelines as well, and I know a lot of times they go by USDA rules, so. I could talk to the bond council a little bit more and get their ideas on it and see if they have any recommendations as to what we could do to maybe avoid some interest costs on that. Ben Johnson, our bond counsel, has worked with USDA a number of times, and he may have some creative ideas that he could share with me and that I can implement.
Yeah, because
if you just do the million at 1.38, over the life of the loan, that's $301,000 in interest. It just seems like a chunk of change to hold their money.
That's 40 years.
Yeah.
And I will contact Ben and see what other options we have. And then if there's anything else, I will certainly let you guys know.
And how will that help us with this decision this evening?
I think the decision tonight is, do you want to accept this money? Should we have different options of how we're going? My feeling is, and without reading the parity agreement, I would say that we have to restrict these funds. Whether they come from the loans is probably where he's going to be able to help me. So if we can find another way for this to come from the U.S., I doubt they're going to allow us to use grant funds for this reserve. So it will probably move this money around in the budget. So it won't help you with the decision tonight, I guess is what I'm saying. The USDA is going to require that. That money to be set aside. If we can find a way to not pay interest on it, then that just helps the bottom line number. So,
And what are your ideas on not having to pay interest on it?
if we could somehow find a way to restrict monies that we've already accrued for this project to pay the debt service rather than use loans, the loan proceeds to restrict it. I don't know how I can do that with USDA to satisfy them, but like I said, Ben may have an idea on that. So we've raised rates and interest in anticipation of this. So we may be able to, we don't have $1 million worth of reserves, but we may be able to cut down the amount that's coming from loans and use reserves. So yeah, I'll have to do some research.
And then as far as when you say we have rate increases in the projections, were you going off the 14 million when we were making those projections, or were because I think this, when we adopted the CIP, we weren't at the 17 million, we were at a lower figure.
And I did do some calculations there because the CIP debt service, I used a higher interest rate. I used 2.5% interest rate and a shorter term of 25 years. So that resulted in an annual debt service of $845,000 a year. With the USDA loan, the grant, and the SRF loan, I show the highest debt service will be $800,000. So that's $45,000 less than we're projecting in the CIP. Even with, if we went all the way up to the $17 million, I still show that we'll be fine with the current rate structure that we have in place, or the anticipated rate structure we have in place. So.
Thank you.
Darcy, if I may, I have a couple other questions on that. So I figured out approximately that make sure my understanding is correct on this. So the requirement from the USDA is that for the life of the loan, we hold $1 million in reserve, correct?
USD is requiring 505,000.
505, and someone else is requiring more.
SRF is requiring 545,000.
Okay. So 1,050,000. Yeah. So then my calculation isn't 100% accurate, but at least it gets us in the ballpark. So that money stays there. It has to be accessible just in case of the scenarios that we just discussed with us. So that money would, with the interest rate you gave me, would be approximately, probably a little over $20,000 to do that.
Probably. Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the interest, 0.8% interest of $1 million CD, about $8,000. So $12,000 approximately is the difference. So we do $12,000 over 40 years, that's $180,000.
There is, so,
Is
yeah.
there something else I'm?
No, you're about right. I mean, your numbers are very close to Sarah's, which I think is $315,000. So, the USDA loan is for 40 years. The SRF loan is for 25,
Okay.
20 years. So, 545,000 of that will go away
After 20 years,
after
25
20
years.
years. After 25 years.
25 years. I'm sure those were good reasons why they have that, you know, from past experiences, most likely. I'm sure they realize, they understand that's a cost to us. So how are we going to accommodate that cost? Are we going to have to take that approximately $12,000 at least for the first 25 years?
It's built into the debt service.
It's already built in.
It's already built into those debt service payments.
This, okay.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
So this is something. So this is something you knew about from the beginning.
I knew that there would be a loan reserve requirement. I guess I wasn't understanding exactly what that requirement would be, just because I had not known that USDA was going to be part of the funding package. So we did a budget for some of this,
So that approximately $12,000 a year is already figured out within our debt service.
It is. It is. And I would say that, not to speak on Sarah's behalf by any stretch of the means, but the question is, should we have to borrow money to pay interest on that money that we're holding? Which is a good question. But it was.
They don't care what $1 million is in reserve.
Well,
They
that's
just-
what I'm trying to. If USDA doesn't care which $1 million is in reserve, which I'm not sure that they do.
That would be, I think that's a good question to find out.
So that's a question I will find out. I worry that it's a question that I don't know how much time we have with this funding. I hate to see this funding package fall through because of this one question. I think it's something we can still work on after the fact. I don't think that USDA would at all be opposed to lowering the amount that they are funding to us. What they'd be opposed to is significantly increasing the amount.
Well, I have a question in regards to $1 million. If we're retaining on average $1 million or more in CDs a year at any given time, can that be?
That $1 million is an aggregate of all the city reserves.
I answered the question after I said, okay. I guess the other question I believe Commissioner Sandberg brought up was, is there an asset that would compensate for that $1 million?
I think what they're going after is they want something very liquid, something they can get their hands on cash quickly. So, yeah.
All right.
We go back to the financial wizards that deal with the USDA often, which is not me, and see what they have to say, see what we can do.
All right. And so on page 42, we can get that up there. This is these are where all the other funds are coming from to make that 17. The other piece of the information is that there's a possibility that we'll be under that 17, that the debt service is already compensating for the difference between the interest we make on CD and the interest we will be paying out on the other repayments from SRF and USDA. And the only other question I have with that is that $3,000, was that designed that we would be gaining off that CD? Was that in our budget to be used in some other capacity?
I do budget for interest earnings. I did not budget a large increase to interest earnings. If we earned additional interest, it would go back to the sewer fund. Wherever the money is earned, that's where the money goes back to. So that would just go to either, it would go to the sewer reserves, which in theory, if it was significant enough, may reduce the need for any future rate increases. I don't know that $8,000 can reduce that much, but that's where it would go, so. Yeah.
All right, so if we proceed, the answer to the queries that we have for this evening could still be worked on and we come up with a solution. And so that this funding can go through and just so the commission knows, I sat in on the conversation with the administration, USDA, this last week. And the gentleman was here. The interesting thing is that he brought up, which I thought was kind of a finding, was that the USDA had never given Livingston a grant, city of Livingston a grant in all the years of existence. This is the first time they've done that. And was it a loan? We've never had a loan from. No, we've had loans.
This is the first time that we.
Didn't we have a loan for the food pantry?
But that was a pass-through grant
Yeah, that
for
was a
the
pass-through.
pantry, not technically working with the city of Livingston.
So either we're gonna come up with a solution that would reduce the debt service, or we're gonna use it in the debt service. Those are the two options we're gonna eventually come up with.
I would say what you see in front of you is a worst case scenario, and we will continue to work for the best case scenario.
Is there any other commission discussion? Commissioner Schwartz?
Just, now, the USDA is giving us a grant or no?
Yes.
How much?
1,715,000.
So that pretty much offsets any interest that we'd be paying on.
It was
reserves
nothing
of the
we
loan,
were
right?
anticipating, so it definitely helped to decrease that.
But it would all help offset our interest payment on the 25-year portion and the 40-year portion. So,
Commissioner Schwartz, if I may.
Yes.
The only caveat to that is that they will reduce the amount of the grant pending the cost of the project.
right, the overall cost, yeah.
If the project were to come under budget by $1.7 million, we would not see that grant. Basically, they want us to use the USDA grant for
Right.
this last. So, which either way, it's
So
good
it's,
news. Either way, it's good news for the rate payers.
Right. Okay, that answered that question, thank you.
Mr. Sandberg?
So I guess just a follow-up on that question. I'm not sure who to direct that to, but why, I guess we just haven't seen as a commission that the project is at 17 million. So I'm just wondering why the application was submitted that the project's at 17 million when what we saw was less than that.
There's a breakdown on.
I was looking at what we originally presented, and I really think that the difference comes from what we're talking about when we call a project. Because the original estimates I had were all for engineering, construction contingency, construction engineering. Those were the engineer's estimates for the actual activity costs. And then when we got to this point where we're starting to do the financing package is where we start to plug in the loan reserves, the bond council costs and those sort of things. So I think the main difference is those two items. When we first presented it, we're looking at a project of $15 to $16 million, $14 to $16 million. If you look at the activity costs on, it was within that pack, I'm not sure what page it was in. 44. It looks like the activity costs are still right between $15 and $16 million, depending on the contingency, which is a 12% contingency. So I still think we're right in the range we thought we were. I think it all depends on how we were defining the project. And so that's what we're trying to show here is the total cost here is what we're gonna see.
So the commission never officially approved a set amount for the project.
I think we approved I think the commission approved the project to be done, and at that time, the engineer's estimate was 14 to 15 million dollars.
So I think that maybe is just where I'm confused as where how that changed.
I think at that
Because
point,
I know we had a contingency in there when it was at the 14. And so just trying to be cognizant of the decisions we made earlier and what we anticipated were going to be our expenses to the taxpayer. And now if we're looking at, $2 or $3 million more and paying interest on that, that's quite a burden to the taxpayer. So I'm just, and I'm not saying we weren't given that information. I guess I don't remember it. And in my mind, I'm just, it seems the project keeps increasing and I'm not really sure why. And I just want to make sure that we as a commission are understanding the true cost of the project and being apprised of that up to date. So when we make our decisions, this feels unexpected to me, a project cost of this compared to our previous conversations.
I think when we first started talking about this project, we had done some very preliminary engineering work. At this point in time, I believe we're close to 60, if not greater, % design. So I feel like our numbers are very close right now, which at this point in time in this project, when you're securing the funding packages, you're pretty close to where you're going to be. In the previous wastewater treatment plant rehab we did, it wasn't a complete overhaul, but a rehab. This is very similar to what I saw that project do as well, that during the planning stages, we had a very rough ballpark. As we got closer to final design and then at the financing package, that's when we set the final budget. So I agree, it's always troublesome for me when I have a big project and I want to make sure that these costs stay where they're at. And I had a very frank conversation with Steve, our representative with USDA about the contingency and said, do you think that's going to be enough? In your professional opinion, having done these projects before, I don't want to see that contingency being used up. And he said very clearly, I think it's a good contingency. I think you have good engineers. I don't anticipate going over that contingency. So I understand your concern about the cost going up. I really do feel good about these numbers. I do not feel like it will go over this. I wish it was at $14 million still, but I think the thing that makes me feel better is that knowing that we have the $1.7 million grant, the lower interest rate and the longer term have resulted in $45,000 in lower annual costs to the taxpayers. So while the cost of the project has gone up, the cost to the taxpayers has actually gone down. And that in and of itself makes me feel a little more confident about where we're at financially.
Is it possible for the next meeting to have just a comparison of what was presented to us first and the estimated cost to the taxpayer and where we are now and what that impact is going to be so we can just see that visually?
Sure.
Okay, great.
And we're at 90% completion of the design. I just want to say.
I knew we were getting farther along.
Yeah, they're at 90%. So.
Because I guess the only other big project I did, we secured funding first. And so we had a set amount that we knew that's where it was going to be and everything. Obviously, we didn't know where bids were going to come in, but we only had a set amount of money. So we knew what the impact to the taxpayer was going to be before we started. And I hope, I don't know, because I don't want our engineering or construction firm to think that all of a sudden they have additional wish list dollars, because I don't think any of us want to make the burden on the taxpayer any harder than it already is. And so how then with these numbers that gets communicated to those entities, that doesn't mean that you have additional funds to spend. So I'm just not sure how those conversations will happen or how the commission feels about that. So.
Is there any other commission discussion? Yeah. The only, I'm not saying the only other. I have another question. And that is, given these numbers, and now that they're more resemble what will probably occur in the actual construction phase, do you see with these numbers now and seeing that it is different than what we were working with when we were budgeting, do you see that this is going to affect the need for our rate increases?
I believe it will, without having updated the sewer department's CIP or projections. I couldn't tell you for sure, but if you just look real roughly, excuse me, $45,000 a year reduction in debt service, about $1 reduction per customer. At this point in time, we can't start reducing rates until the project's finished. Should it come in to where we believe it will, it's always a possibility. I hate to say anything for sure. You never know what's going to happen.
Oh, okay. When you were talking about reduction, I was thinking that it would possibly increase.
Oh, no, because I showed that the debt service costs actually are going down. So our operating costs are actually going down as a result of these grants and the longer term and lower interest rate. So I don't anticipate having to change the planned increases that we have done in the CIP.
In the upward motion.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. If anything, down.
I don't mean to be facetious, but I just think it can go down in 7 years yet. So I'd love to.
I would love to see it, but I won't. So.
Is there any other commission discussion? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wally. Appreciate it. Is there any other public comment? Is there a motion from the commission?
Make a motion to pass resolution 4716.
I'll second.
So a motion by Commissioner Friedman, second by Commissioner Vogel. If there's no further discussion, maybe have a roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel? Yes. Commissioner Freeman?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg?
Motion passes. All right, moving on to action items. Discuss with deny election of Livingston City Commission chairperson and vice chair. Commission, this is your ball game. So we will take nominations from the commission at this time for chair and vice chair. Commissioner Sandberg?
I nominate James Bennett for chair.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to say is that this year will be my final year on the commission. No applause, please. And if Commissioner Hoagland decides to run for commission this next election cycle, I will probably step down from chair and let Commissioner Hoagland take over as being chair so that she can have the opportunity to get her feet and wings under her, over her. How do you say that? so that there'll be a smoother transition in the transfer of the chairmanship than it has been in the past. So that would be my intention. If that's acceptable to you.
It's your prerogative.
All right, so roll call, please.
Chairperson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter, yes, Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg.
Motion passes. Is there a motion for vice chair?
I move to nominate
Okay.
Glenn for vice chair.
I'll second that. Any commission discussion? Anything you'd like to say?
He said some stuff.
Okay, I said some stuff. Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter, yes, Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg.
Motion passes. Moving on to action item B. Chairperson's assignment of seats at commission table. This is one of those I consider antiquated formalities. Is everyone happy with where we're sitting?
I'm gonna bark her one for you.
If the head shaking up and down is an affirmative, I don't think we need a vote on that. We'll just take that as a yes. So moving on to action item C, chairperson's appointment of city commissioners to advisory board and commissions. Again, traditionally the city commission has selected themselves and voted on each position. So I transfer that to us as a body to decide board positions. So, correct me if I'm understanding, Ms. Lowry, if I see this list on page 6-9, is that all the positions that we assign ourselves to? Is that every board that we assign ourselves to?
With the exception, I don't believe a commissioner sits on either the Board of Appeals or Board of Adjustments.
And the historic preservation board.
So, say that once again. So,
Board of Appeals, Board of Adjustments, and Historic Preservation
the
is
ones
not.
that are open.
Right, orders, the library,
Yeah.
library board, and city county airport.
Must have more and more.
Are you saying?
Absolutely.
Do we want someone on those boards, or does it matter? I guess is the.
We historically not had a commission on those boards.
So we don't need to try to get someone on tonight.
No, we do not.
But we should try to get someone on.
Library board and airport.
City County.
Commissioner Sandberg?
I know I was appointed to the library board last time, which sounded like fun, but I can't meet at 4. And so, do we have the times that these committees meet?
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Since the library has, I don't think yet determined whether it wants to be under the auspices of the city or the county, has that been figured out yet?
My
Not
unders-
finalized now. If you want to hold off on assigning somebody from the city to that until that happens.
I mean, we can,
Or you can
or we
assign
assign
them.
them and they don't go.
Sure.
We'll
Well,
probably be happy if there's not another meeting. Yeah, let's proceed about that, because that was a suggestion I kind of, the rumor I heard is that it may not have a lot of merit to it.
The rumor I heard is the same, but
What's that?
the rumor I heard is the same, so.
Okay. Well, there's another rumor. Take your
Those are
rumor.
good.
All right. So, to get back to your original question, times. Can we draw that up on our, okay, so tree board, Commissioner Friedman, what are the times that board meets?
Well, we got them, we did that there.
We meet at 1 o'clock on third Wednesdays.
We don't have Sister City on this list. Is there any other boards that we sit on? Health board. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's two.
There's health board. Is it? Is it on there, Sister City on there? What? Oh, oh, so you're saying, our list is 5 on the left and the rest on the right?
And some of those, yes.
And some of them are due. Okay. So Sister City's there. Okay, so,
Or how about, can somebody just tell me which ones meet in the evenings? Maybe that's easier.
skate park.
Skate park?
Parks and trails.
Did you, now originally it looks like I'm still assigned to the health board, but last January you took on the health board. Did you ever have a chance to, is that's another one of these from the day, I believe.
There is sometimes the option, I know, when I've been on the boards, we have conversations and talk about, I can't get there until 5, is there any adjustment, and like try that and see if it works for the whole committee or board. It has for us, I know, we've moved times for the planning board from, I think it's been 6, then to 5 and correct.
So I guess first of all, let's just take the open positions first. Because we have airport board and library board. Is there anyone who'd like to? I'd be interested in library board. Oh, Mr. Sandberg?
Is there a reason they're not all open? Or do, I mean, we just
Well, they-
automatically renew everybody?
All open unless, is there any, we could start there. Ask
Well,
if
I'm
anyone
just-
wants to change or be off the board.
I'm just curious the process. I'm not,
Well, sometimes what we've done is, does everyone want to be on the same boards? Yes.
oh, okay.
All in favor? Aye. It's been that way, so I'm
Sure.
assuming that if someone is not bringing up the request to be off the board position, that they're still willing to be on the board position.
Okay.
Is there? Okay. How about this?
Except for me on the library, I was disenfranchised and taken off. Apparently,
Maybe because it says open?
exactly. I didn't make the renewal process.
Would you like to?
That was
That's okay.
on my list, I
Didn't
got
get
you
on
on
the health board either, and I got with that on there, so.
Right.
So, why don't we could do this in many different ways. We could get through this pretty quick. Mr. Sandberg, are there any boards that you see there that you would like to participate in?
Well, yeah, but it goes back to what can I attend? You know, I can't, when I can attend, I can't make it during the day. So that's why I was asking what meets in the evenings.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that.
Okay,
All right, Commissioner Swartz, how about you? You were on the urban renewal. You were on something else.
EMS and
Where's
Meals
that?
on Wheels and
Oh, Meals on Wheels doesn't count.
an active transportation
That
committee.
doesn't count. Oh,
I'm not sure if you are, still wants me.
okay. How come this, I get confused on this every single year. What is this 1 through 5 on the list here on the left?
That must be in their agenda package.
Okay, we,
Nominated.
so this is one, chairman of police, city representative. Okay, so this is. Oh, city commission. Okay, so we have a lot more. Boards of appeal. Okay, you're saying that we don't have. Board of Adjustments. Okay, let's take it this way. Tree Board, Mel Freeman, you're on, you want to continue?
Yeah, I've got the tree board, Sister City and Grants.
Sister City, and Grants, what category would that go on under, Ms. Lowry? Just take your choice.
Grants.
You see it?
No, it's, we formed it.
City Commission appoints representative. How about that? All right. Okay, so that's Commissioner Freeman. All right. So Parks and Trails Committee, going down the line here, Commissioner Hovland. That's you. You want to still be on that committee?
Yes.
Okay. You are also on city planning.
Yes.
You want to continue. Okay, good. All right. Historic Preservation Commission. We don't.
They don't want one.
They don't want us on that. Okay. Library Board. Is there a volunteer for the Library Board?
If it was
I'll
in
do
the
that
evening,
one.
I would do it.
I'll put myself on it if I can talk into the moving with the evenings and I'll tag it. Skate Park Committee, that's me. I gotta see that through to the end. Urban Renewal, that's Quentin. Okay, County Airport Board, City County Airport Board.
When's the last time you met that?
Okay, we'll come back to that. Health Board, we meet probably in the late afternoon. Okay. Okay. What board meeting? Okay. City County Building Maintenance Committee. Is that you, Mel, still?
There was, and I never heard about it the last couple of years, so I'm willing to do it.
Do we know who is in charge of that particular committee, building maintenance?
I can follow the parks.
Okay, well, Mel, if they meet, you want to go see what they're talking about now?
That's fine.
Okay, perfect. Communication Advisory Committee. Is that you, Quinn?
Yeah, I believe that falls under
Are
911.
you okay with that one? Yep. City County Community Trails and Greenway Task Force. When did that get on?
That exists.
It doesn't seem to be separate from Parks and Trails, I've just checked through it. So,
Lost that one out. EMS Committee.
That's essentially virtual communication advisory. That's an item advisory. So we'll merge those two and create a
Okay.
document.
Perfect. Urban Transport. Oh, that's me.
That's the TCC.
That's me. Sister City, that's Mel. Urban Design Plan Implementation. Who's been having these things on there? Is that you, Jim?
As far as you are, he's probably.
Okay. That's you, Quinn.
Can't have it.
Yellowstone Country. Do we have a seat at that board?
What kind of clothes? Who's putting these on here?
It's called Country Motors.
No.
Tourism.
Yeah, but
Oh,
then
there hasn't been
that
anyone
one
on
is
since
full.
2008.
So some
I don't think
problems.
they've had. So it's just on here as an open vacancy.
Okay. All right. Do we have a representative in the audience from Yellowstone Country? Isn't that you, Leslie?
Well, I mean, we belong to Yellowstone Country, yes.
I beg your pardon?
We belong to Yellowstone Country, yes.
Do
I'm not
they
on the
meet?
board, I'm not on the board, but we belong as the chamber.
Do they ever meet?
Yes,
When do they meet?
they meet once it's supposed to be once a month, but they've been meeting once a quarter.
And who's in
And
charge of
it's-
that?
It's usually in the afternoon, but it's all over the area.
it's like all over the area. Lately, it's been a red lodge, so you gotta be able to be gone all day. It's like a half-day meeting.
Do we get compensation for that? Travel funds, lodging, meals, entertainment?
So this is a commerce,
Ms. Grabo,
Mr. Chairman, the commission's never had a member on the Country Board that I know of in the last 17 years. They don't have a commissioner on their board,
well, it says on our website that we do.
but they never have.
City Commission appoints
They appoint
representative. Okay, so cross that one out. We'll come back to it. Police Commission, that's not us. Okay. So we have gone through this list. Did we miss anything? We have to come back to the airport board. Meets at noon.
Here is the fourth Tuesday. I know it's on this meeting. This says the fourth Tuesday.
I'm looking over this way.
Look at Commissioner Sandberg. How's that? How about your lunchtime with the airport board? All right. No.
Really big boards. And then two really big boards that meet all the time.
Well, what do you guys think about this? How about I'm just suggesting, don't want to take any personal offense to this. How about if Commissioner Schwartz, Commissioner Hoagland, take turns going?
The airport?
Yeah.
I don't.
It's in-
That's no. Okay, put me on.
Okay,
It's well,
we got a volunteer.
Wait, what? No? What? Yeah, you like airplanes.
but now you have a lot of them.
But actually, I'd be interested in being on that.
Okay.
Because I'd like to see further.
Okay, so we got to quit that.
I don't.
Yeah.
So after transportation, a board or committee,
I didn't know it was even on here. This is just got.
It's on here, it's still fairly new.
What, the urban or the Clark County?
don't they really do that?
Sorry?
Okay, Commissioner Sandberg. The active transportation committee meets in the evening.
It's got my name on it.
That's right, yeah, that's right, we have two, we have the active and then we have some parts that we're doing streamline things.
What is that?
Active,
She's scrabbling for a pen now.
It's the, it's a joint city-county, committee looking at ways to enhance, pedestrian, bicycle, all those alternative means of getting around town besides using a car. And enhancing, access for those non-motorized type transportation.
And what is?
I think
It
the
just,
third
wait.
Wednesday- The third Wednesday at 16,
So the next one on the 18th.
but we'll confirm for it.
I've got an email here that they're meeting on the 18th.
So the administration will confirm that and get back with Commissioner Sandberg. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
The Commissioner Schwartz has been planning on confirming for us.
oh.
Well,
So Commissioner Schwartz, are you amenable to letting Commissioner Sandberg take that commit?
I'm not on it, I don't know, because it kind of dovetails with the park.
That's all.
County.
Yeah, and then the mass email that goes out.
Thank you. All right, so Does that do it? Ms. Harold? Did we get through all this? I think we did. If we missed something, you can let us know next meeting. Would it be acceptable to the administration to make a comprehensive list of what we just did? The committee was assigned and what days and moments and times they did. And everyone we can get a comprehensive. Excellent. Do you want to have any other further insight into committee assignments? You good? Okay. All right. Okay, discuss, approve, deny CIP process plan for fiscal year 2018, 2019. D is tabled.
Oh, okay.
Indefinitely.
We get,
I won't make a comment.
we can table D, I must have misheard you. For item E, we had discussed at a previous meeting, perhaps in light of some of the changes going on along with the new city manager coming in, and now certainly with Jesse's departure, not doing a fully modern CIP process, but rather integrating it all into a larger, broad-scale budget process and just doing a budget and kind of keeping the CIP we had, enrolling it, understanding that some of those larger things that we have in the CIP will be looking to get budgeted in the budget process, but not going through a formal CIP and then a formal budget, kind of integrating them into one for this year, just given everything that we have going on.
Comment on that? All right. Don't like that idea. Well, so when is Jesse leaving?
Middle to end of February.
I know. And not the tissues. Middle to end of February. Hey, we got time to do this. I'm
Not unless you want a grumpy finance director for the last 2 months.
Have we, I guess, some preliminary, have we begun the process of search and put out the applications?
That is still in process.
When do you think we'll have applications ready to go out?
Probably in the next couple of weeks or so, I'm gonna have a conversation with the incoming city manager about that. And including in that process.
All right, what are the, I personally, I think the CIP process is vital to our budgeting process. I don't like the idea of that. And I understand why you're suggesting that, but it's nothing
Logistics
personal.
and-
I understand the situation. Well, I gotta get my thought out first. Is it possible for us to consider that it's January, beginning of January, that process now? Person's not gonna be able to know what to do. Well, how long is it gonna take to train someone? We gotta find someone who knows what they're doing. That's the goal. And we'll steal the one from Missoula.
I could see if I
Been
could
a
work out a
diet.
swap.
Okay, well, we're just gonna have to go out and start taking some, finance directors from around other cities out to dinner or something. Can I get that in my budget? All right, so I think that, one, the lawyer's saying this. Can we get some more information before we do this? I'd like to see how quickly we get some on board.
It's not gonna be
Okay. I'm not going to go ahead.
That's not,
Well, and that, my point is going to be that the
timeline and the amount of information that Jessie would have to put into the process before she leaves. It's almost impossible, number one. Number two, and bringing someone in during, like, halfway through is almost impossible too. So I feel that we need to be cognizant of the timeline issue and go along with what Lisa's saying, that we don't really have an option. Maybe we can have it a little heavier on CIP during the budget process, so we can make sure we're really integrating the two instead of it just being budget or just a CIP. 55, 45 or something.
So just to give you a little perspective, internally, we usually begin work on the CIP in October. Typically, I'd like to see the city manager goals set before work begins on the CIP, therefore we can incorporate those in the long-term financial planning. The commission just recently set the city manager's priorities goals. It's possible that we could update the CIP spreadsheets that you see and have them presented along with the budget so that you may see a 1-year detail and a 5-year overview of each major fund that we're looking at. And that could give you an idea of where the perspective is. I think that would be my recommendation. It's just like Lisa was saying, kind of integrating them together. And I would hope that that it would go back out into its own separate process, because I really do feel that it's very beneficial, and I think we've seen a lot of improvements to the budgeting process because of it, but that's not for me to say anymore. So that's kind of would be my suggestion, is maybe update those spreadsheets and have them with your budgeting process.
Thank you very much. We have a commission discussion, Mr. Sandberg.
I think Jessie has a good idea for the interim. But moving forward, besides city manager goals, does the commission get together and set financial goals that we want to see implemented in the budget?
I would say there's no formal process that we've done, except for we do that during the CIP process. Because most of the flexible budgetary items that fit into that process. But if we want to, because we're in this point of transition, maybe that is a good suggestion in order to establish some of our financial goals as well.
Just used to a process of a board or commission stating their priorities and what they want to see accomplished through the budget annually, whether that was in the fall, etc. And that's what the priorities are set that way, and then the budget's designed based on that. So.
Any other commission thoughts regarding this? Is there anyone who would like to second that request? The request to have a meeting with the commission to set some financial goals to, and then present those to the administration. I'd like to do it. I'd provide a second on that. I just think it would be, another way to at least give the administration some guidance about what the commission is thinking as a whole.
I guess my,
Commissioner Holden.
I guess I feel like we do that within the process already. So are we adding something that we're already doing? Like, we do it within the goals. We do that within the CIP. through various routes, and then it goes to budget. So I'm not sure exactly what would be different. Maybe you want to try to explain what you think would be different.
Yeah, what I think would be different would be, if we're going to integrate the CIP partly and the budgeting process partly into one unit, it seems like correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Raleigh, seems like we'd have a little less discussion on how we're going to be flexible in rate increases, capital improvements, equipment purchases, or do you foresee this process being identical in nature, but consolidated?
I see it as being identical in going through those line items once we have things together, and then there's that opportunity to comment. What do you think of it? Why is this a priority? Why isn't this a priority? Or do you think this should be a priority? I mean, the city manager goals did include an overarching financial goal in terms of the 16.67%. Keeping the funded back. So I think there are some, and lean fiscal goals and things that were mentioned in those goals that were decided. I mean, we certainly be open to any feedback as we begin kind of putting that together as well. If there's, certain priorities that the fire youth as a group that should rise to the top, that can certainly help guide the work as we begin it and then integrate district projects into that conversation.
Okay. And when do you foresee starting that process?
Soon.
So
Very, very soon. Run a little bit of a timeline, Jesse. So.
Okay. Well, is there any desire or objection from the commission to meet and discuss a few financial goals presented to the administration while they're in this process? Mel, what do you think?
Different room. I don't know, just, I'd like to hear something with the start the process.
Commissioner Schwartz?
I'm more than willing to sit in and figure out that this definitely is not my strong suit at all. I wouldn't even know where to begin. You guys are looking at that. And certainly would participate. I mean, attend it.
Mr. Hoagland, you still stand that you don't think it's worth adding value?
I'm not sure what we're going to get more from what we're already doing. But I see some value in it. It's not that I'm against it. It's more that I feel like we're already doing it in one way or another. So, could have it as an action item coming up and have a discussion on some.
There will be one way to attend to it. Maybe that's a good compromise between doing nothing and maybe having a special meeting. We'll put it on as an action item. Everyone bring their ideas and their thoughts, and we can discuss them and come to a consensus on where we'd like to go. Yeah, I don't think the minimal financial goals we put in the city manager's goals were probably that strong a direction. But
No,
yeah,
it's
it is
here's
it is kind of for our general budget. So we have a meeting on the 17th. So maybe we can have that discussion item then. Okay. Is there any public comment on this particular issue? All right. City manager comments.
I've done this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Very much. Commission comments. Commissioner Savard.
Can we get an update on maybe dates with the new city manager? Do we have more firm dates and process of city attorney?
We are still working with the March 1st date for the city manager. I did send the draft contract to him today via email. So I expect to have some response in the coming days about that. And the city attorney interviews, finalist interviews have begun. They'll continue through this week and into part of next week.
And how many are you in? 3. Great. James, are you and Joel sitting in on this? Okay.
Commissioner Schwartz?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Commissioner Freeman?
Yes, I have quite a list.
What?
Yesterday, I had the privilege to see my daughter sworn in up in Helen with the Capitol. And it was beautiful. I also recommend that people, if they haven't seen the state Capitol building, to do it. The magnificent building. We had a great grants meeting, so we have a formal process for that, and we get quite a bit done. And that's going well. I went to see Mike Gomez after the meeting. I received an Arbor Day Foundation tree survey, and they're going to give us some free trees. So I want to get together with you, Mike, and show you what I got here. And looking forward to a good year. And that's it.
Well, that wasn't that expensive of a list.
Well, it was for me.
Shoot.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I think back to relax and sit back and lean back for a moment. Mr. Holden? That's all right. You're going to give me some time to think of something. So, it's a new year. Is there any public comment? Please, public comment. Hearing none, entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
So is motion by Commissioner Freeman, second by Commissioner Schwartz. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is adjourned at 7:52 p.m. Okay, good night, guests.
Johnny, did you go to Stockton?
I did. I tell you what.